Hello and welcome to today's episode of The Untold. This is a very unusual episode because it's a special one. We usually have, or I would say occasionally have, our colleagues, and mashallah, we always discover they have hidden talents, right? Of course, today's episode is no exception. What do you think, Lujain?
I agree. Today we have Yusef Salim, who's actually a TV presenter, the way that we are, and I actually used to work with him before in the news, so I'm surprised to see what his journey was to become a TV presenter.
Yeah, honestly, the thing that really surprised me and shocking, and this is also a new revelation for me. I didn't know he worked in the news or that he was your colleague. But when our producers gave us his brief, it says he was also a gamer, professional gamer. He'd been all over the place, playing games, and he also overcame stage fright. And that was the shocking thing to me because, mashallah, if you've seen Yusuf on camera, he doesn't have an ounce of hesitation. He's full of confidence, right? He's interviewed ambassadors, he's interviewed ministers, he's interviewed highly, people in so many highly positions, not an ounce of hesitation behind him, full of confidence. So to see that our producers said that he told them he had stage fright, he had to overcome that, is really surprising to me.
It was surprising to me as well because I see him as a very calm, confident, assured fellow. The way he speaks, you wouldn't expect that there's any fear behind his voice. And I actually had no idea about the gaming, so I'm curious to see how he went from gaming to presenting.
Yeah, honestly, very well elaborate question. And for the answers, we are going to go on a break. So we sit down with him after the break. And we are back, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for tuning in. And of course, most importantly, thank you to our colleague, Yusef Salim, for joining us on today's Untold.
You're most welcome, Abdullah. And hello, Lujain. How are you?
Hello, it's great to see you here. We actually go way back working together. So I want to talk about how your career started. Can you tell us the untold story of Yusuf?
Yes, definitely. First of all, thank you for having me on your special show, Untold. I've seen it a lot and I really like it. First of all, I'd like to tell everybody about my career and how eventually I escaped stage fright. And therefore, as a child, some people transfer from English school to Arabic school and they have difficulties learning Arabic, right? So I took my time learning Arabic, and on the side, I started playing a game on the computer called Warcraft 3.
I think we've all heard of that one. I'm not a big gamer, but I think World of Warcraft is a very popular game.
Yeah.
Yes, it eventually developed into World of Warcraft, but Warcraft 3 is a MMORPG. So
What does that mean?
it's basically you have to build an army and then you fight with other people one-on-one. And in Europe ladder, as you know, online, I reached top ranks, so I was rank 3
Oh, wow.
in Asia and Europe. And therefore I competed also and I qualified in Dubai. And I realized that gaming careers actually generate money. So that was really interesting for me.
I mean, that's amazing. I have heard that nowadays esports is becoming quite a thing, but back then it wasn't as known for making money. Abdullah, I've heard that you're also a gamer, so what are your thoughts?
Yeah, honestly, the things that Yusuf just said, it's kind of remind me, on a much smaller scale of my childhood, right? I was going to PC cafes, playing video games with my friends, and basically you could call it the grandparent of esport because the things back then is that, you have a PC cafe and then all of them would chime in, like everybody would put, 10 KD or 20 KD, and then all of that money would go to the tournament prize, and then whoever the team wins takes it. And if you're a kid, you're 13 years old, 14 years old at the time, that was a lot of money, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so chasing that goal, especially in PC cafes, is honestly amazing, and you just brought so many memories.
Yes, Abdullah Lujain. And since, back in those days, 20 KD as for children was a lot, right?
I mean, you were rich when you had 20 KD as a teenager, I think.
Kind of, yes. So therefore, my older brother, he took me to this cafe in Salmiya and he introduced me to another game, FPS shooting game, and I was really good. So we made a team with the 2 Korean friends and 1 Lebanese guy and my brother. And therefore, we started winning competitions and generating like 50 to 100 KD each week.
Oh, mashallah.
So when you're 17 and you're generating this much of money, it's really good for you. Every weekend I used to go out and buy shoes and buy clothes. and I used to depend on myself a lot. And after that, we developed. Later years came on, more competitions came in. And then we went to Dubai, and the money was really heavy. So like almost 500 to 700 KD for each member. So that was really great.
I mean, that sounds really good. And I think you're fulfilling a lot of boys that I know's dreams. Like my brothers would have loved to be able to do this competitively and make money because they love gaming so much. I know nothing about it, but as Abdullah said, it's like brings back his childhood memories. And I think you would have loved to make money from gaming if you could have.
Yeah, honestly, I think, gamers nowadays are living in the golden age of gaming, right? You can just open the video game and then open it on a streaming platform. And then if people are watching you, you're going to make money. Of course, back then, I wouldn't say we had it, bad because it was still a lot of fun times. But now the plus side of gaming is that you can actually make a career out of it, right? And so I think that's a good takeaway for parents. Now they're seeing their children, قاعد يلعب طول الوقت. He's playing all the
Yeah.
time. He's not studying. My advice is that let him study, but also let him play because there's money to be made, right? There's career to be made.
Yes, definitely. And back in those days, Abdullah, when you were too much on the computer, my parents used to take out the power supply and just let me study first.
Oh, I think
But
would that ruin all of your progress in the game though?
not really. It made me
Okay.
just go more into it, when I had time. So when we continued playing this game called Counter-Strike, and we qualified in Dubai, they made another tournament in 2007 that qualified us for Malaysia.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so many teams came to Dubai from all over the region, and we actually won. We had 2 American guys with us in the team, and we went to Malaysia. So, there you're on a stage, there's a lot of crowd, there's a lot of pressure, there's a lot of tension. Everybody had their adrenaline up, and you had to perform. But unfortunately, us 3 Kuwaitis, yes, we did good, but we were lacking some experience from these Americans that were with us. Therefore, in 2008, they made another qualifier to go to Wuhan, China,
Oh, wow.
for a grand final that will take you to Los Angeles for a $1 million prize.
Wow, I had no idea gaming could make that much.
Yes, they actually do make a lot of money, Jim. It's interesting. And therefore, we switched our 2 Americans with 2 Kuwaitis locally from here. And we went to China, right? And we were on stage and everybody was cheering and it was crazy. All the cameras were around us. And we actually beat China, we beat Singapore, we beat Malaysia. We just lost to Australia and we got 2nd place.
Oh, that's crazy. Because especially beating China and those places where they take gaming very seriously, that's quite an accomplishment.
Yes, yes, sir. We were really surprised that we did this, and it was crazy. There was a round where I got 5 versus 1, and I won the round. And you have to see how the crowd reacted. And my manager, he was a Pakistani, Jafar, and he just held me so hard. He hugged me on stage, and our friend Badr Al-Khaldi, he just screamed and he disconnected his headphone. And therefore we had a technical pause on stage. Yeah.
Speaking of, I didn't realize, because you made a good point, when you're gaming alone, you're just gaming by yourself. There's no one around you. So when you started doing it competitively, how did you handle the pressure of being in a crowd? Did it cause you stage fright?
To be honest, the stage fright from Malaysia's experience, we had, to be honest, when you're on stage and you're just focusing on your game, you kind of zone out from all the crowd and all the sound because you have headphones and sound cancellation. Therefore, you're really focusing on what you're doing, but the only thing that you have to be is on focus. And I was the team leader, so I had to call out strategies during the game, and with all of these cameras and announcers and everything was going on. But the real satisfaction comes when you win a round and all your friends are screaming and the people are expecting the other team to win, but you actually made an impact. So that was really nice. That was back in 2008.
Wow, everybody loves a good underdog story. What do you have to say, Abdullah?
Yeah, honestly, this reminds me of so many videos when we were watching, right? When we were in those PC cafes watching videos of tournaments of the games we were playing, it all felt like a lot of camaraderie going on, right? It all felt like so many friends, playing with each other, cheering each other. There's a feeling of, homeliness with it that comes during those days. So now if you're watching, it feels more corporate, it feels more, business side, because like you said, there's a lot of money to be made now. I think the recent World Cup esport was in Saudi Arabia. Some of the monies there went like in the millions, not just 1 million. So it become more of a corporate kind of thing. But back then it was more a thing of passion. I think that's what you were saying.
Yes, Abdullah. And in 2008, when we came back, because we qualified as a Dubai team, we were called Dubai Mirage. So
Amazing.
when we came back to the airport, our manager got a call from somebody in Dubai telling him who are these Kuwaitis playing in the name of Dubai. Yeah, it was interesting. And therefore, when we went back to Kuwait, they made Nasr Esports in Dubai and they recruited all the Emirati players to play in this club. And our team, basically, we were heading to university. I went to study. Another friend went to pilot school, and everybody really got busy with his life. And therefore, we stopped the professional gaming career. We just competed locally in Jahra, had a lot of competition. We still generated money during the weekends. It was nice money.
I had no idea we had competitions here in Kuwait, to be honest.
Yeah, there is a lot of things. It's funny you speak about Jar because we also, went through so many areas, during those days when me and my friends were playing Counter-Strike. Each PC cafe had their own team. We were the team from Rihab, which is, I think Rihab is still here today. We would go to Salmiya, go to Hawali Park, we'd go to Jahra. We play all these tournaments, for 40 KD, which is a lot, now it's just one meal, but back then it was a month's worth of meals. I do want to go back is that you mentioned that you went back to studying and all of those, found their professions.
Yeah.
And this can segue into the next phase of your life when you became our colleague and you're also a presenter here.
Yes.
So talk us through that, that phasing stage.
All right. So first of all, when I joined the university, I went to the Australian university here in Kuwait. And if you have experience there, it's all about presentations and just giving out projects in front of the students. Therefore, there's not a stage fright, but a presenting fright. And I had a little fright from the students, but I kind of came over it so fast and I became usual. And therefore, I graduated business management on the top 10 of my university.
Oh, that's amazing. MashaAllah.
Thank you.
And actually, now that you mention it, I never thought of it that way because there is a lot of presentations at uni. And I personally also, I didn't like being in smaller situations where I had to present and all the people. Back in school, I used to be in a lot of school plays and stuff. So that was actually easier for me because you don't see the audience.
Yes.
So it's kind of easier to be on stage and be a character than it is to be yourself and present. Did you feel the same way?
Yes, definitely, of course. And if you present, you really need a good subject to talk about and to impress people that are watching you. And therefore, you have to really grab the attention of the audience, how you talk to them and how you express. And even your gestures, they really affect the audience, right? And therefore, after that, believe it or not, I didn't join the Ministry of Information. I went into banking, and it was a long process with a lot of regulations, and it was corporate governance, so it was really heavy.
So you kind of went into a lot of different fields, from the gaming to university to banking, and then becoming a TV presenter. What was that like?
To be honest, when I left the bank, I had one hope. That was to use my English, right? Because I studied English and then after I learned Arabic, believe it or not, from the Quran, alhamdulillah. And when I joined the Ministry of Information, I enrolled in the Human Resources Department, but my goal was to reach KTV2, right? Therefore, I worked my way and I got into connections with people here. And alhamdulillah, I made it. I went into the news department, and that was with you, Lujain.
Yeah, that's where I know you from.
Yes, we had a really
Originally.
intensive career in the news department.
It was very hectic there. It's very different than what we do now, I feel.
Definitely, because as you know, Lujain Abdullah, politics is, I think, for political science students, and that was not my major.
I mean, my major was English literature, so it was also a bit far from the point.
Yeah, I think, the thing that I really love about, the Ministry of Information is that we all have different backgrounds, right? It's a collective of so many ideas, so many, fields, so many mediums. These people bringing all of them to create a product that hopefully entertains a lot of the audiences who, speaking of, we are going to go on a very quick break and we'll come right back after this one.
Welcome back from that short break. Yusef, we were just talking about the journey you've been through, from childhood to gaming, uni, a news editor as my colleague
Yes.
before we both entered the TV presenting profession. So tell us more. How did you become a TV presenter?
Yes, so basically when I moved from the news department to KTV2, you know, the team in KTV2, they're so supportive and they back you up really. They
They
tell you
really
what
do.
you're missing, they tell you what you need to do, and then it comes to your performance, right? So usually standing on stage in front of a crowd, right? It's different than standing in front of cameras and a crew. Because when you're on camera and you're on KTV2, basically you're talking to your hometown and you want to impress people and you want to express the best feelings that you can for the people and how you really feel, and you want to be natural. So you just have to let it flow and you have to improvise on the way and just remember to be positive always. And it depends really on the program and what your vision is. But standing on stage and talking to different people, like interviews, depends on who you are interviewing. And if you're improvising on a subject, you have to research about it and you have to give facts and not lies, right?
Your thought process and your decision making, you know, going from behind the scenes at the news and then to actually being in front of the camera in a live, you know, TV program nonetheless. So what was the decision making process there?
To be honest, Abdullah, politics is not my area. I don't like politics at all. So I was into variety and I used to watch KTV2 and I really wanted to be there and I used to participate in some programs, but I had to do that shift. So the shift came in a decision in a moment of time in my life that was really critical. And I really did that decision and alhamdulillah, it was really great. And more to mention, Abdullah and Lujain, about the stage fright is that when you start something, you have a secret word you want to say. It's called Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. And then you just have to go and just believe in yourself.
That makes a lot of sense because God will always put you on the right path no matter what. And if something isn't for you, you will not excel in it, I feel. And actually, I feel like we have that in common in terms of going from a place where it didn't fit our image or our interests and trying to find a way into, let's say, the variety programs where we can talk about more interesting things to us at least. The news is very important, but it's not for everyone.
Definitely. And you have to be really specialized in political science to give out the news you like or how it's politicized or how you want to say it. In different countries, everybody has a different opinion. Therefore, my opinion was really different and I really like the variety. So first of all, when I joined KTV2, they put me in a really strong program called Good Morning Kuwait, and it was a live show. I never did a live show before in my life. Yes, I stood in front of a camera, but it was all recorded. So the live is pretty different, you know, it depends on what you're really saying. So there was this moment that I had an adrenaline rush where it was His Highness the Emir Sheikh Mish'al congratulating all the comrades. And we had to improvise on spot. This came on spot, not prepared, not planned. And it was me and my colleague, I think it was Sarah al-Bakr. So I had this adrenaline moment or adrenaline rush that my heart was beating fast. And therefore I just said, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, and my heart just calmed down. And I just started improvising what I was seeing. And alhamdulillah, it went well.
So do you still have those kind of nerves now, even though you're experienced, you know, and much better knowledgeable about the ins and outs of working in front of the TV, or is it more natural now?
You know, Abdullah, everything you do in life, it becomes routine. So if you change into something or you try something new, of course you're gonna have that adrenaline rush a little bit, but here comes your experience and how to beat this adrenaline rush and just calm down and just go with the flow, because everything naturally, when it comes naturally, it's better.
Oh, that's pretty good advice. And actually, all of us come from backgrounds that didn't begin in TV. So I think it's good advice for us as well, right, Abdullah?
Yeah.
And I do want to ask, since you had this moment where you had the adrenaline rush and you spoke about doing live shows,
Yeah.
how hard is doing a live show? Because I know it's much more difficult and the nerves must be much higher. So how did you deal with that?
Yeah, so let me take you to an interview I did with the US Ambassador, Her Excellency Karen Sasahara. And that was my first ambassador to interview on TV. So it was really intense and I was not prepared, to be honest. Yeah. So when we went on stage, you know, I said the magic word and just did the interview with her. And it was all natural. I just had to not go into politics so much, you know. And to be honest, when she improvised, we talked more about tourism and people, students studying in the US and going back and forth and how to make it easier for them to make their studies much better.
Yeah, I think a lot of audiences don't realize or don't take into account, and even some of our guests who come here and are in front of the TV for the first time, is that yes, you do know and you are aware of the cameras for the first, I would say, 1 minute or 2 minute, but then once the conversation goes, you kind of forget all about it, right? It's just you, the person in front of you. You don't hear anything. Exception for the live, you're hearing the director
Yeah.
shouting, yelling at you in the ear, but nothing is shown to the audiences, right? It's just you in the moment.
Yes, Abdullah and Lujain, I'm sure if you try the live shows, you're gonna know how it feels to have a director giving you instructions while you're speaking. So here comes the gaming part when I was on stage, right? You're gaming, everybody's giving you information in the headphones. You have to perform and focus at the same time. So this really made it easier for me to communicate between me and the director and of course the crew. You have such a great crew, you're gonna work well.
You know, I think that's why I'm kind of afraid of going to live programs, because I hear so many voices in my head already, and now you're going to add the director into the equation. I'm like, okay, which one are you, right? Which one is the director giving me commands? Which one is someone else telling me something other than that?
Yes, I'll tell you something really special, all right? So when you're in front of the camera, you're facing people you don't know behind the camera. So you want to remember somebody that makes you smile. You know life is good, right? And don't forget that also Allah Almighty is watching you. So you also want to perform in a nice way and a gentle way, right? You don't want to say something so negative to people because your impact is wide. And as you know, we are a national TV, so your impact is really wide. And maybe in the region also, and people internationally watching you. So you have to be aware of different religions, different beliefs, and different mentalities, and how to express in a way that you could be flexible with all of these people watching you to make them be happy.
Yeah. You know, there's a funny thing I learned in presentation class back in university. This is like 11 years ago. And something I haven't really thought about it until I started, being presenter and, trying to learn this kind of new endeavor. I was nervous, right? Whenever my turn would come, I could hear my heartbeat. Like sometimes I would say Shahada, right? Because I thought I would be dying at the end of class. That's how nervous I was. So I talked to the professor one time, and then he was an old guy. I'm talking like maybe 70 years old or before. So he was wise beyond his years. And so he told me something, even though it sounds crazy, it's something that stayed with me and something that keeps me calm whenever I'm in front of the camera. He said, technically speaking, you're all living in the past, like by a margin of seconds. So just think of yourself, the now, has already done it, has already presented everything. And the one that's nervous, that's afraid, is just watching from the background. And it sounds crazy, but once you have a separation between the nervous self and the confident self, you can kind of, play along and kind of, be an actor in one of them, reduce the nervous side and bring out the confident side, even though both of them are you at the moment. I know it sounds a lot of craziness, but it's something that kept me comforting. And I'm saying all of this to ask you something,
Yeah.
is what are your presentation skills or habits or, your rituals? How do you overcome the habits you have on air?
To be honest, Abdullah, I kind of learned a little bit from you that we are living in the past, but to be honest, we are living in the present. When you're live, you're present, right?
Yeah.
There's just a marginal seconds that the director has to close the screen if something happens. For example, emergency case happens, he can close the screen, right? But you have to really think about what you're saying to the people if you're improvising, because that impacts them. If you say something that is a negative thing about the weather, for example, you're not just impacting the people, you're impacting the weather, right? You're a performer, you perform live, not just for TV. Just imagine who can watch us, either from space, from the galaxies, maybe from another planet, right?
There could be someone from another planet watching KTV2.
Maybe.
We can say hi to you from here, from Earth.
Yes, and you're most welcome to the planet, right? People want to live, people want to be experiencing the beautiful nature that we have in our beautiful world. And especially here in Kuwait, we have a lot of things to mention about archaeology. And if you think about it, in the Ice Age, all the animals came to a hot spot where Kuwait is. To be honest, that's why I think there's a lot of oil, alhamdulillah, here in Kuwait.
Alhamdulillah.
I mean, that's a new theory. I'm not sure if it's true or not, but I'm loving the philosophy we've got going on. TV presenting philosophy. You guys should write a book together
Yeah.
about the time and the presenting and the dinosaurs. I'm not really sure, but I do agree with you that there is something to be said about connecting your present self with your presenting self and trying not to think about what's behind the camera. A lot of people get, I think, confused or nervous because they're focusing too much on everything around them and not being in the moment, being with the guest, being with the other presenters. And when I first started, I was a bit nervous at first to forget that there are people watching me behind here. Like they wouldn't notice, but I would try not to shake my leg because it would happen without them noticing. And eventually it went away, as you said, with practice, with experience. And the more that you do this, the easier it becomes. And you mentioned about improvisation being an important skill. So could you tell us more from your idea how important it is?
All right, so since we're all here TV presenters, I'm sure everybody from us has different skills to give and different fears to have. For example, you said you shake your legs. For example, Abdullah hears something. For me, it's like what people think, right? I have to fix what they think or just give them an impression that's really good so they can continue a day. So for a skill for me to have is to smile all the time. That's not a skill that you gain. You have to smile all the time. And to be honest, it's a good training for your cheeks, maybe. I don't know. You'll get used to it. It'll be really fun. So that's one of the skills, right? And Abdullah, you said you had rituals to do, or I had rituals to do. To be honest, I like it. I just like to come, join the action.
Be in the moment.
Yes, no plans. I just like to have fun.
Do you try to prepare beforehand with any interviews?
To be honest, the interviews, if they're difficult, right, I have to read the script because I have one mission, and that mission is to pronounce correctly. Because, you know, most of the people are watching, they're children, and you don't want to pronounce something so wrong that he might learn this wrong word and also spread it to his friends, right? So you want to improvise and say a pronunciation that is right so they can also learn. And if you're presenting a program or reading from a teleprompter, you have to take your time, read it correctly, express how you feel, and just be natural. Because the only way the audience is gonna like you is that you act naturally. If you try to act like somebody else, it's gonna show.
Yeah, I think it's pretty easy to spot fake people who are on TV, right? Especially, if it's someone you know and then you see them different persona on television, it's like, okay, I know that's not you. So it easily comes off TV screen. Like you said, once you are in front of the camera, it's like, it's really you, right? Because in the moment you're not thinking, you don't have 3 steps ahead, you're only in this exact step. You got to make the decisions right now. Everything's shown. So that's where people's identities come. And I loved how you said, your true self is the ones on TV.
Yes, and Abdullah, more about stage fright, right? To be honest, this is the first time I have an interview in the ministry with you guys. And to be honest, the first few seconds, I had this little bit of a heartbeat. And then I just took a deep breath and I calmed down.
Bismillah.
That's the secret word, believe me.
And it's very convenient that we opened the episode by you saying Bismillah, and we are going to end it by you saying Bismillah, because unfortunately we have reached the end of today's episode of The Untold, but I do want to thank you for joining us.
You're most welcome, and thank you so much, Abdullah and Lujain, for having me on The Untold. And I hope everybody gained some knowledge about stage fright, and maybe they will like gaming and to gain from gaming, not just to play it for fun.
I think so. I think you managed to impart a lot of amazing wisdom, and I want to thank you for joining us and walking us through your journey. And I hope you enjoyed your time as a guest as well for the first time.
I did really enjoy. Thank you so much.
And we're going to go on a short break. Stay tuned.
And that's it from us, the team at The Untold. Honestly, I love these episodes. Anytime we have one of our colleagues, it always feels like a jalsa of duaniya. It's always fun, always exciting to talk about their hidden talents and everything.
I was most surprised about his gaming history and how gaming can be competitive and you can make money out of it. I felt like I need to tell my brothers this.
Yeah, honestly, we were joking about it in the episode, but he highlighted a very great point: is that gaming now, especially in today's world, it's not as much of a jinx on a child, right? They can make a living out of it, but of course, you got to stay with your studies. And Yusuf was a man of many talents. He was philosophical at times. He was funny at times. He was so educational, informative about our field. We really had an amazing time.
I agree. And it was amazing to see how gaming actually helped him get over his stage fright so that when he became a presenter, he had a lot of tricks up his sleeve so that he could just present with ease.
Yeah, honestly, he was very helpful to us. I never skip a chance to learn from our colleagues, and hopefully the audiences got a little bit of help, got a little bit of insight on our process, on how we do things here, on the nerves, the mentality it takes. With that in mind, it's the end from us, the team at the Untold. Until the next one, goodbye for now.
Goodbye for now, and I hope you enjoyed the episode.